What's that red star? Is it a meteor?
I don't know what it is, but it looks like one.
What's happening, Grandfather?
I don't know, Mark.
Is it gonna hurt us?
No, it's not.
Welcome to Breaking the Silence, and this is In Conversation With. And today we have Chris. Now, for some of you who are new to this program, I have noticed in the comments that you object to my talking over the guest. This happens normally in conversation as we get excited and talk about things, and that's why we call it In Conversation With. Just a word to the wise, or the word from the wise. I don't know. It's one of those. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. Good to be part of this amazing journey that you embarked on. I think I saw your show for the first time last year, and I just been hooked ever since. So I haven't lost a single episode. When after I discovered you guys, and it's a pleasure to be a guest on this show. It's a
Well,
pleasure.
we're really glad to have you, and it was great to meet you the other night in our private online support group. My God, we have over 250 videos. You watched all those?
I think so. It was middle of summer when
Huh.
I discovered you guys. So I
Right.
watched all the videos, and then of course I browsed through all your catalog of videos and watched some of the ones that you've done in the past, which
Hmm.
were absolutely amazing. But there's uh, the reason why I got hooked was because a lot of these people, are just down to earth, regular, normal people that had amazing experiences, which you can't really explain. And probably tonight we're gonna delve in some of mine,
Yes.
which also I cannot explain, and I have no deep understanding of what happened. It's just what I recall, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wow. So originally, you're from Romania.
Yes, that's correct. I was born quite some time ago, half a
Not as
century,
not as long ago as me, but yeah, okay.
half a century ago,
Half
in
a
the
century.
capital
Okay.
of Romania, which is Bucharest, where I lived until about 2009, and then I went abroad to study more and in the end ended up here up north in Canada. So an interesting journey. But what I'm going to be talking about and the experiences that took place in my life, um, all of them happened in Romania. So yeah,
Wow.
when I was a kid or a teenager, yeah.
Well, Romania is kind of a mystical, paranormal kind of place. I mean, according to history and to what I've heard. So,
We have in the Bucegi Mountains, we have a stone formation which is called the Sphinx. It's
huh.
it's a lot of people don't know about this, but at the top of the mountain is this huge rock in the shape of a human skull, and the energy that you feel when you're next to it, it's equivalent of what I felt when I was in Cairo next to the pyramids. It's just an insane amount of energy at the top of the mountain, and a lot of people don't know about this, but yeah,
I don't. I would love to see a picture of it. If you can send it to me, I'll include it in on the edit.
I will totally do that. Yes,
That would be
absolutely.
really cool.
Yeah.
It's something new for me.
Yes. Yeah. Um, so if we're to um, l- go on this road of how it all started, um, I can tell you that when I was around 5 years old, um, I was um, I was in my living room. I was playing with my toys as I was always doing. I grew up in a super awesome family. My dad and mom were super close, super happy, and tending to all the time to my needs and whatnot. And during this particular day, my mother got a phone call, and then I understood that something super bad happened, as much as a 5-year-old can understand.
Hmm.
And I started noticing grave, how bad the situation was, because he kept calling, and I then asked what was happening, and she said that my dad had an accident. Um, that put me into a state which was very, very upset. And even though I wasn't listening to every single word and whatnot that was happening, I knew that something very bad has happened. Um, I think also my mother was protecting me, because in reality, my dad already passed away, but I think didn't have the courage, or she didn't want to let me know. And so she just said that he had an accident and he's in the hospital. And so, what's very interesting, and I don't know if I recall this correctly or not, is that I started feeling that I'm putting a lot of energy out, in that state of I was upset, and I felt as if that was noticed. I couldn't see any beings. I couldn't hear any beings. Uh, with my little brain, I don't even know if I was thinking about that.
Mm.
But when I recall that event, I know for a fact that I was thinking that there was a lot of energy that I was putting out, and this was attracting attention from, maybe if you want to call it, other realms. Um, is this something that I was literally seeing and feeling then, or did I made this up later when I was thinking about this event? I don't know. So there is a chance that maybe later down the line, when I was thinking of what happened, I came to this conclusion. But somewhere in my memory, there is this thought that in that state, I was putting out a lot of energy, and that was noticed. And I'm not talking about human beings or people around, which came over to our place and stuff like that. So that was very, very heavy. Now, um, and I also think that probably I knew that something worse happened than what I was told. But again, 5 years old, not much to go on.
Hmm.
Um, moving forward, I don't know exactly how long after, but probably fairly close to this event, um, I was experiencing a recurring dream every night, every single night, the same dream. And the way this dream was happening was I was so I was taken from my bed, but I didn't know I was taken from my bed or whatever. I was just sleeping at night. And then I would find myself floating towards a platform, or maybe a road, where a couple of beings were waiting. And I don't recall if it was three beings or five beings, but there was a bunch of beings waiting for me.
Hmm.
And I was floating towards them, because I remember clearly I never walked towards them, or just be in front of them. I was always floating towards them. So they were constantly coming more and more into view. The reason why I said it was maybe a platform, I have no idea. It's because there was nothing underneath. There was just complete blackness, darkness. You couldn't see anything underneath this road and where they were standing. But also there was absolutely nothing above them. It was completely pitch black. It was just that road, which was curved to the left, and it was them standing and waiting for me.
Wow. And this was outside.
I don't know where this was because
Okay.
this whole thing, there were no trees, there was no grass, there was no, even when I say road, I don't know if it was a road. It was completely white. So the path on which we were going, as far as I remember, was completely white.
Wow.
And what was behind them, it looked either as curtains or as a white wall, but there was no lighting coming from anywhere. Everything was self-illuminated or whatever. That's how I remember it. This was also more than 40 years ago, so my memory is not perfect for sure. Take this with a pinch of salt.
Hmm.
So when I was reaching them, I already knew that they were supposed to take me to the pit, what I call now the pit, which was a place in which I had to plunge. So, and I'm going to go through what was happening. So I would reach
Okay.
them. There would be no dialogue whatsoever. I think I would ask questions, but I would never get an answer back. And then I would walk with them to the left for a couple of minutes, I think, not long. And then we would reach this pit in which, if I looked, I could never see what was down there. I think it was also pitch black. So I wouldn't know what to expect. Um, but I don't know if I made this up later or this is what they were telling me somehow. But I was always expecting, and this will sound stupid, but it's what I experienced. I was always
Hmm.
expecting to have a lion down there, which makes no sense. But in my child mind, there was a lion down there. Okay, so then I was in, I was trying to make them not send me into the pit because I had to jump, like literally I had to jump or to
That's
just
pretty
go in.
scary.
Yeah. And but I could never get any response or any, and every single night this would repeat, this dream would repeat
Wow.
itself. Now when I was sorry about that, my phone I think picked up something. When
I
I
didn't
was
hear it.
yeah, when I was in the pit, I have absolutely no recollection of what was happening there, with I think one exception. When for some reason I was allowed to see what was in the pit, I didn't wake up instantly. So normally what would happen was I would be thrown falling into the pit. I would have zero recollection of what's happening there, and instantly I would be awake,
Hmm.
either screaming or maybe not screaming, but drenched in sweat and with a huge fear in me, like an animalic fear, not like a normal human being fear. So
Yeah.
the highest level of fear, and that was it. But I do recall that one time I was allowed to see what was down there, and it was this round, huge round, I would say room maybe, with white walls and white floors, and the being was not a lion, was just a being, as the other beings, a cloaked figure. Sorry, while I went through this, I forgot to give an explanation of
Description.
how
Yeah.
these beings were looking at.
Yeah. I was
So
going to ask, but that's
yeah,
okay.
the beings that were up top were looking like monks, um, and if I remember correctly, their clothes were gray, and I could not see their face. And I don't know why I could not see their face, because I could see them clearly, but I could never see their face. So, and they looked like monks. This being that was down below, in that one instance, when I spoke with this being, I knew that I saw it before, and um, I said, I think I tried to reason and to somehow try and change the outcome of this, but I tried to interact with this being, saying, I know you from before, and the being was just amused, um, gave no answer back, provided no, because what I was trying to do was to change the outcome of what was happening, because every single night I was going through the same thing. And even with these beings, with the 3 4 beings, 5 beings that were on top, while we were going to the pit every single night, I was trying to reason and say, hey, can we do this in a different way? Maybe don't throw me into the pit, what,
Yeah.
and but interestingly, I never got an answer back. Yeah, and they were just, what I felt about what my words were doing to these beings were, they were just amused by me trying to relate to them, and to let them know that, I would like to connect somehow with them. The one being that was in charge of, so I remember that one of the beings up top that we were floating towards, it looked like that person was in charge. I'm not sure why I knew that or how I knew that, but it looked like it was in charge. And I got to I don't know why or how, but I got to recognize that person. And again, I was trying to reason with that person as well, and saying, "Hey, I know you," and trying to be friendly and whatnot. But again, interestingly, I never got any sort of answer or feedback from them.
Wow.
Um, yeah. Now, do you have any questions about this, Steve?
Well,
Or
I found a lot of things very interesting, and of course, the fact that they felt familiar to you. I hear this all the time. Some people, like the gentleman I just had on, Mike Cleland, I had on just the other day, taped a show with him. He brought up the fact that when he saw the little grays coming outside his window, he felt like this was a normal event, that they might even be family, that I recognize you, I know you, we've done this before. And I hear this over and over and over again. I also hear that a lot of times people do see them cloaked, sometimes even wearing hoods, and they can't see the face. Even though there's light on them, they can't see the face, that the face is blocked for some reason. Um, and then you describe uh, the white room, sort of dome shaped, I think you said.
so the room, so you, I never looked up. I don't recall looking up.
Right.
It was cylindrical, but
Hmm.
the walls were super far away. But it was like a cylinder. The
Hmm.
floors were completely white. I didn't feel, not like, not even a second in that 5-year-old mind did I feel that I was in a place that I would ever recognize in my life. So now thinking back, and again, this could be fake. This could be me just, making things up, because I don't have that clear access to my memories. But it
Hmm.
didn't look like anything that anyone would ever see in real life, because it was huge, because it was round, and because there was, from what I remember, there was absolutely no source of light. The
Yeah,
light
that's
didn't came
typical.
from the floor, it didn't came from above, it didn't came from anywhere. It was just a round white room,
Hmm.
and there were no shadows. There was, the being was in front of me, and yeah, it was I could see it perfectly, even though I could not see the face at all. And yeah, it didn't look like anything that you would ever recognize from this from this earth, you know.
I hear this description all the time about the lack of light source, the very that it's very white. Um, this is not untypical. Um, why would okay, it's I was going to ask you a question why you thought you'd make things up like this, but usually to explain away something you did really experience, whether it's really vivid dreams or not, you're trying to make sense of it. But I, looking back, uh, there was a lot of things that happened as a kid that I remember clearly about this interaction with these beings, and it was like we played, and they took me places, and I was with other children, and all this other stuff. Uh, and I just figured that that was my childhood imagination. And then, of course, years later, I reading Susie Henson's book and had a real shock because it's almost like we had talked and she knew what I knew. It was the same dialogue. Of course, we have since become friends and we talk, or even working together. But I hear this from other people as well, that there were things they remember from childhood that they thought were their imaginations, that they made it up. And then they find out later that other people, like just like them, thought the same thing and could share the same experience in the sense that they had something they couldn't explain. And
Yeah.
so in thinking I understand it's called the imposter syndrome. This can't really be happening. I must be making this stuff up. It's too crazy. It's too wild. It's too out there. But then yet, so much of what you said syncs up with things I already know and I've heard so many times before. Even before this channel, when I was in the 90s working with Yvonne Smith and Whitley and Roger Lear and all those people, um, we were hearing these same things back then. Yvonne's support group was quite large, very private, was held at her house. And the things we heard in there from people who were completely private, not wanting to share it with the public, were very similar to what you're describing. So what do you make of that?
I've never talked. I never thought that I will ever speak in public about this, because yeah, you can think that, a person has problems if they come up with this, but then you know. I spoke with my wife, and she was like, "Wow, this is really interesting." And then there were other experiences which followed,
Yeah,
it,
let's hear about those.
which don't make any sense. So one last
I,
thing I forgot to
I
mention
don't mean
in
to laugh
this.
at you,
Yeah,
but I hear that all the time too. It doesn't make sense. You're never going to believe this. Yeah.
yeah. So um, one thing that happened soon after, which again made absolutely no sense, is that so my father so my father passed away. I didn't know until much later because my mom, I guess she loved me so much that she didn't want to tell me that, so she just told me that he was in the hospital getting better and whatnot. So yeah,
Wow.
I think it was pretty hard on her. And anyway, but fast forward maybe a year later, I think it's about a year later, my mom and I go in vacation about 140 miles to the Black Sea. And we have normally we spend 2 weeks there every summer, swimming, enjoying the beach, enjoying the atmosphere and everything, the good weather. And we go there, and one day while I'm playing near the water, and I was a very good swimmer as well, um, even though I was just around 6 years old. Um, I my left wrist starts hurting like there is no tomorrow, like really really bad. And I go and I talk to my mom. I tell her, my mom was a nurse all her life, so, and
Hmm.
she's asking me the most probably normal question ever, like, did you hurt yourself? And I say, no, I did not fall on my hand. Nothing happened, but it kills me. So she says, go for a swim and see what happens and whatnot. Water was a bit colder and whatnot. I come out of the water, the hand hurts, but this time I have a definite feeling that there's something wrong with my grandmother. After my dad passed, because my mother
Mm.
was working sometimes 12-hour shifts, not just 8-hour shifts, she asked my grandma to move in with us so that she could take care of me and whatnot. So my grandma moved in with us after that event. So she was at home in Bucharest, 140 miles away. And I knew that there was something wrong with her. I didn't associate what was wrong or what happened or whatnot, but I started in the same day when I brought up the fact that my left wrist was hurting like crazy. I said, Mom, we need to see what happened with grandma. And of course, she looked at me as I was crazy. Um, and I never did this before in my life. So she dismissed it. But I kept going and going and going. So before the time was right to go back to the hotel for the food and whatnot, she couldn't take it anymore, and she said, "Okay, let's pack it and go and see what happened." So no problem. One small note here: during World War II, the house fell on part of the roof fell on my grandma, and she became somewhat deaf. But with the years, with the years, this went to the point where she was completely deaf. So she would understand me looking at my lips, and some signs. And so we go to the hotel. My mother calls a neighbor, and the neighbor says, "Oh my God, I'm so happy you called because because your mother fell down the stairs, and we took it to the emergency, and she's has her left hand in a cast now because she broke her wrist like in a bad way."
Wow.
And now what's interesting is that, as I told you before in the previous meeting,
Hmm.
um, I don't know why I've never ever talked to my mother about this ever again in our lives. I just don't know why, but I can just imagine what she thought about this. And then, of course, afterwards, realizing, oh my God, my wrist hurt like hell. Then I knew there was something with my mother, and putting the pieces together, it doesn't make any sense. Like I shouldn't have known because we were so far away.
Yeah, but
Um,
were you close to your grandmother?
Super close, like yeah, super
Okay,
close.
so you had a real connection,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you do know that people that have paranormal experiences, for lack of a better description of yours, um, often have healing abilities, but also uh, they're very empathic and very sensitive and can actually feel other people's pain. Were you aware of that?
yeah. I think I had some friends when I was a teenager, and they were twins, and
Hmm.
they could feel each other. Like when one had to go to the dentist and had a bad intervention, and it went kind of sideways, the other one knew that something went wrong. It was just a normal visit to the dentist, but something happened, infection and whatnot. And yeah, yeah. So, and I was super close to my grandma because I think I was, yeah, I'm positive I was spending more time with her than with my mom, because my mom was oftentimes working 210, or 8 to 2. So yeah. um so that was one interesting thing that happened. um Another one on over which I'm going to go just briefly. I didn't think I was going to talk about this, but why not? And this
Okay.
happened much later in my teenage years. So now, fast forward about maybe 10 years, maybe 9 years, 15, 16 years. Um, I had these vivid dreams every now and then. And when I say every now and then, is maybe three times per year or four times per year, where I was in a specific seat in a plane, and that plane was going down, and I was feeling the horror, and I was just living that, and then in the news I was so after a day or two I would see in the news that the plane crash, a passenger plane crash and whatnot. Now, do I know if this is just a coincidence or not? No, I don't. It could be just something that I was randomly dreaming. Well, one thing that's interesting and why I decided to talk about this is that if this was not real and I wasn't in the planes that were going down somehow, um, like my brain was creating a heck of a story, because every time I was having this dream, I was in a different part of the plane, in a different location with different seats, and looking at the seat in front of me was always different. So there was never an instance where it would, like the previous dream, when it was repeating itself, everything was the same. Um, the only thing that was varied was my dialogue with them, because every time I would try and argue and try and maybe lead them to a different choice, or let's try and do things differently, never worked, but it was the same exact thing. Well, with this, and this only happened for 1 or 2 years, it didn't happen forever. um, One time I was on the left side of the plane looking outside the left window. One time I was on the right side behind the wing, um, in front of the wing. And so yeah, this was super super interesting, because every single time after a, like either in that day or the next day, on the news there would be like an accident happen and a plane went down and stuff like that.
Well, did you ever get a sense of what may have caused any of these problems with the aircraft?
No, no, I was just, so what I remember is just knowing that these are my last moments on earth, so having an understanding that it's over, and that it's a sad situation. It could have not happened, it could have gone well, but unfortunately it happened, and it happened to me. And I think I was just, yeah, and this was also on kind of on par with the same fear that was happening from the previous dream that I just talked about,
Mhm.
where when I was finally waking up before the impact or during the impact or whatever, like in the moment of the impact, was exactly as when I was thrown into the pit. I would wake up usually every time. This was when the plane would crash, or right before it crashed, I would wake up and my heart would be just racing. So yeah, it was just so vivid, and so it was as if it was myself being strapped in that seat, n- realizing that the plane is absolutely going down.
Yeah.
There is no chance
Could 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 you tell what kinda aircraft it was? Jet or propeller powered? Or, I mean,
um
maybe you were dreaming about something that did happen to you, in a previous life.
it's possible. I don't recall, because maybe it happened too long ago, but I remember sometimes I was seeing the wing. But now, of course, it would be so easy to differ. And even back then, I flown within Romania with the AN-24,
Mhm.
which is Antonov 24. It's a Russian plane with propellers,
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Um, but in those dreams, I would just be completely focused on the fear that I was feeling, and
That's understandable.
the kind of giving up sentiment of there is no, like, I was aware that there was no way out, like, and there was nothing I could have done to change the outcome of this, so yeah, it was those were pretty terrible dreams. And then I was watching in the same evening, same day. I think at least one time it happened in the same day. Turn on the TV, and on the news, a plane went down. Commercial. These planes were always commercial planes
Right.
because there were people around me. But yeah, this was quite interesting.
Yeah, I wonder if you were having precognitive dreams, and even if you knew the aircraft, the flight number and everything else, if you call them up and say, "Don't fly that airplane because it's gonna go down,"
Yeah,
they're not gonna believe you, and it's like you can't
no.
change the timeline or the future, so, uh, wow. So, flash forwarding to today, um, how are you doing with dreams and strange occurrences and stuff? Have they continued?
Um, so that's a very good question. Um, about last year, um, I had something that happened that I cannot explain, and it's probably boring for everyone except for me. But I'm gonna try my best to tell you what happened,
Okay,
and
please
then
do.
I'll let you be the judge of this. So I don't know what happened. I was asleep, very deep asleep, and then suddenly I found myself shot through the universe, uh, but without much visual feedback. Like, all I know was I was going super fast, and when I say super fast, is nothing compared to what super fast means on Earth, but super fast compared to the distances in the universe.
Mhm.
And I I don't know how long I flew. There wasn't anything visual happening or whatnot. There was just a knowledge that I was now outside time, which it sounds weird, but um, I knew I was outside time. I don't know why. And then I instantly stopped, and I was in this stillness, black stillness, but I was completely connected with the whole universe. And I was connected to all the information that was available through the universe. Um, I had all my questions answered without asking any questions. And I also, and this leads me to something very interesting, which is that after reading a lot of books and whatnot about reincarnation and stuff like that, um, I do think that knowing it all leaves no room for a bit of curiosity and a bit of mystery and a bit of this and a bit of that. And for that reason, maybe for that reason, higher beings decide to just go and experience this life here on Earth.
I think you'd
Um,
be right.
you know, because in that instance, there was absolutely no happiness, there was no sadness, there was nothing. There was just, I was completely connected. It was peaceful, of course, but you wouldn't experience joy as you experience joy here on Earth, um and yeah, so this happened, and I was there, and I knew I was outside time, and then I just woke up. So I don't know for how long I was there, but it didn't matter because this I was back, and I just woke up, and I thought, and I what's interesting is that this dream was super vivid. But usually I'm not the type of person who remembers their dreams when I wake up and whatnot. But this one just stayed with me because as soon as I woke up, I was like, oh my God, what just happened? Because I never experienced that before.
It sounds to me, what you're describing is classic for someone who's had a near-death experience or has left their body. The sensations that
Mhm.
they have when they're out of the brain and out of the physical form. and connected with non-local consciousness. I hear this description all the time.
Two very interesting things that happened when I was a kid, and sometimes they even leave my memory, and sometimes they come back. Is one, um, I woke up from an afternoon nap after I came from school, and this was maybe I was 7, maybe I was 8 years old, I think, and I slept in a different room than the one that I usually sleep in, and I woke up, and for a moment I didn't recognize the place, and I was like, "Where am I?"
Huh.
And I realized that none of my friends from the dream that I was just playing with are part of, and it just hit me so hard. I was upset because none of my friends were here. Because when I started looking around, and I never had any problems with my memory is just just a normal, well functioning memory. So as soon as I look around and I realize, oh, I'm in my living room. Usually, I was taking naps in my bedroom, not in the living
Hmm.
room. I instantly knew that none of my friends are in here because I knew my friends from this universe, and none of the ones that I was playing with in my dream were part of this universe. I don't know if this makes any sense, but this is
Yeah,
exactly
it
what.
does. I mean, I think I described a little bit of that to you, um, about the memory I have of playing with other kids and knowing them, and other beings, child beings as well, um, and feeling a sense of loss when you come back because, like you said, they're not here. And so that must have just been my wild child imagination. But yet you really felt that emotionally.
Yeah, yeah.
So I get told this quite frequently.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. And the other thing that makes absolutely no sense, but it happened to me, was that I don't recall at what age this happened, but I know I was young. Um,
Yeah.
I woke up in the middle of the night, and I realized I'm on Earth, and I'm on this place, and I said to myself, "Oh my God, I'm back here," you know. But I was upset, so I don't know why, and it doesn't make any sense. I apologize for repeating this so much. Um,
No,
I
it's
was
not.
upset that I was back on Earth. I
Yeah.
don't know why, but I was upset.
No, I understand it because plenty of us have felt that way. Um, I myself once had a vivid dream of living an entire lifetime. Uh, I don't know if it was another planet or what, but I knew I was in love with someone, and I grew old and everything in it. And then I woke up and it was time to go to high school, and it took me, wow, quite a while, a couple of weeks or more to shake it off because I longed to be back in that life, even though I saw it to completion, if I'm to believe my dream. And that doesn't make any sense. And um, I know other people
Yeah,
that that's happened to as well, where you've dreamed entire life in a dream in one night, because we're told all the time that time is not linear, that time's not what we think. So it would make perfect sense that you could do that in a dream state. I mean, the question is, were you remembering a life you had once before from another life before this one, or do you have a
what's absolutely
you have a parallel existence? You know?
what's absolutely shocking is that because when that happened, I was a bit older. I think I was at least 8 years old.
Mhm.
Here's what's absolutely mind blowing. I knew so many details about every single friend from my dream, because that was a single. So this only happened one time when I had that dream, and I was playing with those people, but I knew every little detail about their quirks, and what made them happy, what made them upset, what who I was more friends with, who I was less friends with from that dream, you know.
Wow.
And then I woke up and I realized, oh my God, not even one of them is here. Like none of them were here. Like my friends were awesome while I grew up. I had awesome friends, but they were totally different. Like they were different. It was as
Mhm.
if I just went into a different universe, different life, different friends. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
interesting.
it sounds like that's what's happened. I mean, you know, so many people watch the channel will say, it's very interesting and everything, Steve, but a dream is just a dream. And so I always ask them to share their knowledge about dreams that they were able to pass such a judgment. Certainly, you must know something I don't. Why don't you share that with me? I'd love to know how you know a dream is just a dream and what is a dream if it's just a dream. And I never
Yeah,
get a response back. I don't think they
no,
expect you to call them on it. I'm not calling on it. I'm just saying, tell me what's going on here because from what I understand, science has studied dreaming and human sleep a great deal, but they don't have all the answers. And there's some things that they just can't explain, like dreaming whole lifetimes, having a dream when you're 5, 6 years old, and you can remember it as vividly today as what had happened back then in
yeah,
every single detail. And when you tell the story, it's always exactly the same. It never changes. How do you explain that?
yeah, yeah,
At least in normal terms, that's setting on
yeah.
the dryer. Uh, Deb, you'll never live that down. Uh, but it's true. I mean, it's just, I'm not saying I have the answers, but if you ask me, what I remember was real, as real as this right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Sometimes it's even more real because why would
yes.
a dream? I mean, if I was just dreaming and I would wake up and everything would be cool, that's okay. But every time I was waking up from that recurring dream, my heart was beating, um, jumping out of my chest. Oftentimes I was drenched in sweat, and
Yeah.
so, why that huge primordial fear? Why, when if it was just a dream, but again, who knows? The brain is a powerful. Yeah, I don't remember exactly where I read this and who said this, but it's something that I think it's absolutely true. Um, Sometimes the worst enemy you could have is your own brain, and I think it's true. I think it's true. um do we have time for a very very short ending story, Steve?
Yeah, we do. We still have a few minutes left. Absolutely.
Perfect. I think this one goes in 10 minutes without any problems.
Okay.
So around the same period when I was 8 9 years old,
Hmm.
a recurring dream started happening again, and this is a weird one. I was living in a building shape of a Y, where we had apartments on the Y, on the upper part, and one rooms in the leg of the Y. And I was living in the Y, and the building was huge. It had 200, I think it had about 250 units. For this reason, the building had 3 elevators. Not something common in Bucharest back then, but it was just an amazing building. So we had 3 elevators. The doors were metal. The elevator was wood inside. Okay, wood panel, wood panel, wood panel, wooden doors with glass about this big of an opening glass where you could see just the outside. When you were going up or down. Just a regular, maybe 5 people type of elevator.
Hmm.
So I don't recall exactly when this started happening, but it was around the same time, 6 7 8 years old, where I take the elevator, I press my floor number, we're going up. We don't stop on my floor number. We don't stop on 9. We don't stop on 10. And the last level of the building is 10. And it keeps going and it keeps going. There is nothing visible through the windows. So there is no more of those things. It's just complete pitch black. And I think I lose um, track of time. I lose track of everything. And then I find myself outside in some dark area, and I don't recall what's happening. When I try to think of what was happening out there, I just cannot recall. And then every single time I wake up back in my bed, again, heart racing and scared, you know.
Hmm.
And what's interesting is that this dream didn't happen just once, but it happened over quite a period of time, to the point where so I got to the point where I would not take the elevator unless there were people going up, and I would not take the elevator by myself, because whenever this was happening, I was just by myself. Like, people left, either people went off the elevator a floor below me or something, or but I was always alone. I was never with someone else. But what's interesting is that it was so vivid and so real that it was as if I just came from school. I went into the elevator. This happened, and then I wake up the next morning, in my bed, in my own bed, and then it's so fuzzy because you don't know, like, what did I do last night after I got home. And sometimes there was nothing that I could recall after getting home from school and getting into the elevator, having the elevator go up past the last floor, which it's impossible.
Hmm.
And this happened at least, I think, 10, 20 times to have this.
Wow. Wow. And you're sure it was an elevator?
It was always an elevator. It was one of the three. It could happen. I think usually it was happening, or I don't know why my brain remembers that the one most to the right is where this was happening,
Hmm.
because I remember I wasn't so afraid of going with the first and the second, but not the third one, which was the one most to the right. But again, that I don't know what that was. But what was shocking was the fact that an elevator should never be able to go over 10 stories high if the building is only 10 stories high.
Hmm.
And this elevator would just keep going and going and going. And when it transitioned after 10, so we had lights on top of the elevator with 1 through 10. And I was looking at the light after 10, and as soon as it was past that, the I would immediately want to see outside to see what's happening outside, and it would be just pitch black. And then eventually, after a while, it would stop. That's what I recall. I would go out, it would be pitch black, and I can, just the same as in the pit, only one time I was able to see that being and try to converse with that being, and be able to recall that. The rest of the times when I was thrown in, that was when I was waking up. So I don't know if it was happening something down there, or I was just, or if it was just a dream. Um, and it's exactly the same here, where I could never recall what was happening once I was stepping out into that. It was very dark. It was probably pitch black, and I don't know exactly what was happening there.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it would be
Great.
it would be interesting to have you do a hypnosis session to see if anything came out there, because um, I'm not saying that you were being taken. It sounds like it.
Mhm.
It could be, and it also could be that they were very, very aware of your level of fear with that, and
Okay.
you weren't seeing faces and you weren't seeing the usual things because they were masking it. And you weren't being allowed to remember what happened after a certain point because whereas I can remember what it was like and being on a table and them doing medical examinations on me and things like that back in the early days of this, back in the 90s. Not everybody can, and I think it depends on the individual and their take on it. I'm just saying, I'm not saying for sure that's what it is, but like I said, it'd be interesting if you found someone you could trust to put you
Yeah,
in a hypnotic state to see,
I
take
would.
you back to those points and find out if there was something more going on there, because it
I
kind
would
of
love
feels
to
like
know. I would love to know because I mean, there's a chance the brain fabricates a lot of stuff, and it's just your brain fabricating everything, but yeah,
why
some
would it
some things that.
fabricate that?
Yeah, it doesn't. I never had a fear of elevators, Steve. Never. I grew up with
I
them
don't
when I
like them.
was 3, 4 years. When I knew how to walk, and the reason for this is because until I moved out, I always lived in this building. So those elevators were my friends. I knew every single button. I never, for some reason, I never had a phobia of elevators. I just love them. I just use them, not even
Yeah,
think about them, not even
yeah,
think about them. And they felt cozy and nice because on the inside everything was wood. So they were
yeah,
very, very nice, Steve.
yeah.
And so, as you say, it doesn't make any sense to have a dream where the elevator doesn't stop and keeps going, and then suddenly you're in a different place. You don't know that place,
Hmm.
but also you cannot see anything that you would make any sense of it, because I don't recall seeing anything or interacting with everyone up there. But that dream kept coming back, and in different situations. Like, I do remember that sometimes I was taking the elevator by myself from the level floor, and sometimes I was taking it with some neighbors, which were just getting off earlier than me. And so it's different instances. So yeah, it doesn't make much sense if you think about it. So yeah, I would love to meet someone who could help me
Yeah,
explore
there are people.
these events.
There are people who will do it online. I'm not sure that. I mean, when I did mine, I did it with Yvonne. It was at her place,
Hmm.
and it was in person. And I just think I could be wrong, but for me, it works better that way. But there are people who will do it online. I just edited a show with a guy named Jerome, and that's what he does. People come to his office. He's here in LA, but he also online can put you under hypnosis and take you back to these
Wow.
times and see if there's something else there.
Yeah,
So if
that's
if you wanted
incredible.
to hook up with him, I can give you that information
Sure,
uh,
absolutely,
off
absolutely.
the
Did it
show.
work for you?
Was that?
So when you went through this with Yvonne, did it work for you? Like,
Yeah. Well, keep in mind that I had a really good memory of a lot of the stuff, and not everybody gets to remember. And I'm starting to think now, after all these years, that there's a reason why some of us are allowed to remember, but we're not allowed to remember everything. And so I pried into it with using Avon, and some amazing stuff came out. I must have done 30 sessions with her over time. And because back in the 90s, it was happening weekly, sometimes days in a row. It was that prolific. And I wasn't the only one because back in the 90s, it was happening. The visits were very physical and very hands on. Um, and on some levels, very disturbing because it was, new to us then, like the way it was of Debbie Cobble and others that you've heard on the channel. So,
yeah.
but it was effective in, it was like I would get to the part where I couldn't remember anymore. And she'd say, "You can remember." She would never ask me a question like, "Do you see aliens in the room?" Big no no. "Do you see a spaceship?" Big no no. She'd never do that. She just described to me what's happening. Where are you now? And I'd say, I'm in bed. Can you describe what's around you, what's going on? And I say, yeah, there's some people here that don't belong in my house, and they're right by the bed, and they're talking to each other like I can't hear them. And it would go like that. And then they'd float me out of the bed.
That's
And
amazing. You're
yeah,
so lucky that you're able to recall so much even outside of
if it's accurate. I mean, we have to always keep an open mind. As much as we ask people who are skeptical to keep an open mind about what we share with them, we also have to keep an open mind about um, the
yeah,
processes and things we use to recall buried memories.
yeah,
We know that it works very effectively in other areas, such as crime research and getting people to describe the person that assaulted them, um, to get a clearer picture of them. And it does work, and it has worked with the police a great deal, um, but not always. So
yeah.
it is like
True.
everything. It has its flaws. It has
Try.
its problems. So
Yeah, I will probably try it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it will work.
yeah,
Because I would be so happy to know whether all this was concocted into my mind somehow, or there was real outside intervention, and these things really happened, and what were they and stuff like that. And I have some other stuff as well, but for just to make sure that we're on time,
yeah.
probably we'll leave that for a different
Well, we can have you
a
back,
different
and don't forget to send me that picture of the skull rock because that's
No, I'll
amazing.
do that. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely.
and I'll hook you up with Jerome because I think Yvonne. Well, you can talk to Yvonne and Jerome both, um,
Yeah,
because they're both pretty busy, but they're both great. They're really good at what they do. So, and Jerome also does. He started off doing past life regressions, and that's helpful too because you might be describing things from a past life that you're remembering in dreams, so or connecting with. So,
yeah.
well, it's been an amazing hour talking to you, Chris. I
Well,
hope.
I hope I hope my little stories were interesting enough. But
Oh, they
yeah,
are, and it's very helpful to others um, who may be holding back and think that you know they have memories like you, and they're not really part of what's going on here, yet they're still fascinated by the channel. Just because you didn't see grays doesn't mean that you don't have you're not open to things like feeling the pain of your grandmother's wrist or uh, connecting with someone who's passed on. Um, or maybe you really are involved also with non-human intelligence, but they're just keeping you so shielded from seeing
yeah,
them and what they do that you're unaware of it, and the hypnosis can help on that. So,
yeah.
all right, Chris.
It's been amazing, and thank you so much for
Oh,
this
thank you
chance.
for coming on,
And
and I'm sure what you had to share will help other people. You may find people
I
reacting.
hope I
Yeah,
hope so. And I also want to say a big thank you to every single person that joined you on this journey. Because watching people like Debbie telling her story, and other people, Michael telling his story,
yeah,
it just encouraged me to be open about this. Because if I wasn't if I didn't see this episodes, and how people are just relating what happened to them, I would probably not have gathered the courage to come on and talk about my crazy experiences.
yeah. Well, you're in good company, and that company is growing and growing and growing as more and more people come forward for exactly the reasons you just stated. And I so much appreciate that, Chris.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much.
Thank you.